Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang. Welcome to this broadcast, and the topic is advanced nutritional supplementation. And the reason that I've decided to talk on this today is I actually had three extensive conversations today with three very different patients on this subject. Now, I occasionally have these kind of conversations. It's a little unusual to have three in-depth conversations on this subject in one day with three very different patients. And so I thought this is a time to maybe take a step back and share some of what we talked about, might be relevant to some of the things you're wondering about. So the concept is advanced nutritional supplementation something we should be doing? Is any kind of supplementation something we should be doing? And I believe the answer is a resounding yes. Now, I had to wrestle with this decision towards the beginning of the 1990s, and circumstances kind of nudged me in that direction, because people that I really respected in the field of medicine, who were leaders in wellness and exercise and lifestyle change, people that were very mainstream doctors, people I really respected, were starting to think about nutritional supplementation as a way to help prevent heart disease and cancer. And when I heard these lectures, I got to thinking about, well, maybe the way I'd been trained that we could get all of the nutrients that we needed from our food, maybe that wasn't right. So I started to really dig into the research myself, not the usual medical research that doctors see in the standard medical journals, but the research that's done in other places, preclinical places, places that never really are designed for doctors to look at, because these are basic science researchers. And as I read this research, I became completely convinced that the ideas that Dr. Kenneth Cooper was sharing at the time were exactly right, that we did need to start using some advanced antioxidant supplementation strategies. Well, the more I looked into it, I got to understand that there was need to consider maybe an even broader spectrum approach to the idea of nutritional supplementation. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And I concluded in the mid-90s that this is something that we should be doing if we could do it. And so I started to introduce the concept to patients who had some interest in it. And I'm going to review with you right now just three of many reasons that we need to consider an advanced strategy for nutritional supplementation. The first reason is that the basic needs of the cell are not being met by the food we eat. There are many, many nutrients that our cells need at relatively significant amounts that we're not getting, and that the basic usual multiple vitamins that you can buy in the store don't provide. And so the basic nutrients that are needed, if they're not there, the cell doesn't function at its best. Now, this malfunctioning doesn't show up in young kids and in teenagers and even people in their 20s unless the nutrients that person is eating are really bad. In other words, kids kind of cruise by with lousy diets, and it doesn't show up that they're having problems until a little bit later. And I'll explain in a moment why that is. Now, the second reason to consider the use of an advanced nutritional strategy, supplementation strategy, is to help the cell to deal with the increasing toxins that our bodies are dealing with, our environments are basically full of now. And one of the things that's interesting about the pollution that's going on now is that it's less visible, but worse than it was when it was more visible. When we could see the smog, it was actually not as bad for us as a lot of the invisible chemicals. And what we want to try to do is avoid damage rather than try to clean up the mess of the damage. And advanced nutritional supplementation can help to do that. Now, the third reason that we should consider advanced nutritional supplementation is the concept of cell signaling. Now, we now know that there are some key nutrients that tell the cell to do certain things. And some of these signals tell the power plants of the cells, which are called the mitochondria, to fix themselves. It tells them to repair themselves, to replace themselves. And this is where your energy comes from. And if your mitochondria aren't getting this cell signaling information from the nutrients that you're sending its way, then this process doesn't happen. And so your mitochondria die off as you get older, and your energy starts to drop off. The other thing that happens with cell signaling is that certain DNA patterns are changed. The expression of the DNA is changed by different nutrients. These nutrients signal different genes to express themselves. Some of them are critical, like genes that suppress cancer, for instance. If they're not being signaled, they don't protect us from cancer. And there's lots of different interplay of nutrients and other things that cause different aspects of our genetic system to turn on or to turn off. So these are three major reasons why I think we need to have advanced supplementation on top of a very good diet. So I'm not saying instead of a very good diet, we need to be doubling down on trying to eat a very good diet while we have advanced nutritional supplementation to accomplish these goals. Now, a different reason to do that, to say it, is that if you want to feel happy and you want to feel healthy, you need to do these things, because you can't feel healthy and happy. Well, you can't feel healthy when you've got too many things going wrong with your body. And people that don't feel healthy generally are distracted by their symptoms, and they don't feel happy either. So both of those are linked to advanced nutritional supplementation. Those are the reasons at the big level why you want your cells to be healthy and happy. So the requirements that I look for in advanced nutritional supplementation are these. First of all, the supplement needs to be comprehensive. It needs to have everything that is required to accomplish these goals. And there are only a few supplements on the market that even come close to that kind of a goal. So if that's our goal, to be completely comprehensive, how do you make that? How do you decide if the supplement has that kind of a comprehensive characteristic? Is it how long the list is, or is it more connected to who decided what's in that list of nutrients? Does this scientist actually know anything about growing cells, growing human cells, or not? And I can tell you that the vast majority of nutritional supplements, there's nobody connected with the company at all that has the slightest idea how to keep human cells alive in a lab. In fact, I'm only aware of one company that has scientists that specialize in that kind of information. The second thing that I think is important is that they have to make biological sense. Now, this is kind of connected to the first one. Most nutritional supplement companies come into being by somebody saying, you know, I think we should make a nutritional supplement. And then they throw together something based on some opinions of different people that have various degrees of knowledge, but insufficient knowledge in most cases. And I could tell you where you yourself could create your own nutritional supplement line next week, just by dreaming up your own ideas, reading some things in books, and come up with your own vitamin line. Now, would that be good, or would it be better if somebody that actually knew how to grow human cells in a lab and knew the precise nutrient requirements that cells have? What would be better in your mind? Which one would you prefer to take? Something that your friend next door dreamed up because he read it in a book, or a scientist who grows human cells in the lab dreamed up because he does it for a living? Well, I vote for number two, and that's what I did vote for in the early 1990s. The third thing that is critical is that it needs to be pure and potent. Now, both of these are connected. The pure means you don't want anything in there that shouldn't be in there. That means the toxins and other garbage that frequently accompany nutritional supplement ingredients that work their way into the final product shouldn't be in there, but they are in there because nobody's checking on on a regular enough basis to make a big difference. See, most companies get by with occasional checks of occasional raw ingredient checks and occasional end product checks. Well, you know how those things work. If you've ever worked for any kind of a company, you know when the inspectors are coming. You know when to make the batch right. But if you're checking every batch, everything, every detail all the time as a matter of course, obviously you're going to have a lot higher quality control, and you're going to catch when something isn't pure. The potent means, does it actually have the right mix of nutrients, and is it absorbed in a balanced way that helps the cell be healthy? And then the last one is bioavailable, which is also about how well the whole mixture of the nutrients are absorbed. Some of the companies that make nutritional supplements use gimmicks to make it sound like they have more bioavailability just because they wrap the nutrient in different fancy things like liposomes. And they use this kind of gimmickry to make you pay a lot more for something that's a lot less than the better products. So you can have a highly bioavailable product that is pure and potent for a reasonable cost that does a lot more for you. Now, the last thing that I want to say that sort of encapsulate that is the last thing I want to say about that subject that kind of covers it all is what I call, it should be pharmaceutical grade. That means that this company should use the same rules for putting their nutritional supplement together as a drug company normally does and legally has to. Unfortunately, nutritional supplement companies don't have to have that kind of control, and they don't. So they have what we call food grade control. That means that they don't test the raw ingredients sufficiently. They don't test whether they're absorbed well. They don't test if there's any toxins that shouldn't be there on a regular basis, and they don't test if the final product actually would help cells survive well in a lab. And these are all part of what a pharmaceutical grade process looks like. And my recommendation is that you find a nutritional supplement that's like that. Now, I only know of one. You may know of others. And if you know of others, then pick one of the ones that you know of. But that's what I recommend to my patients. And that's what I recommended to all three of these patients for different reasons. The first patient was in his 20s, and he was just looking forward to life. And he's relatively healthy now, but he wants to stay healthy. And he knows that we live in a toxic environment. He knows all of the factors that we just talked about as reasons to supplement. And so he wants to use the best thing that he can to stay healthy. He was eager to know what the best thing that he could do to stay healthy. Now, a lot of people just want to take something. They don't want to take necessarily the best thing. Now, I don't understand that way of thinking, but some people think that way, and more, you know, it's a free country. Anybody can think the way they want to. But from my way of thinking, I want to do the best thing I can, especially if the best thing is way better than the second best thing. The second person that I was talking with today was in what we would call middle age. She's starting to lose energy. She's not sure why she's starting to get sick more often and why it takes her longer to recover. She's just a little bit slower in terms of getting better. She's been sick more frequently in the last year, and she has less energy than she used to. And she's right in the middle of why all of those other things are critical. The cell signaling, protection against toxins, all of that stuff. She's right in the middle of that. She's starting to experience her body not functioning the way it used to. And then the last person that I talked with is quite elderly, and she's dealing with crippling arthritis of her hands. It's getting worse and worse. She's got conditions that she can't take any of the arthritis medicines because they'll kill her kidneys. They're not good drugs to start with, but for her, they're poison. And so she's got two alternatives. She either puts up with these symptoms and loses function, or she takes something that's in the nutritional supplement realm. Well, if she chooses the latter, does she go with a couple of things off the shelf that may or may not make some sense, or does she do something that's much more comprehensive that gives the body a chance to fix itself, even in her age group? I told her that in the future, I was pretty sure that stem cell injections would probably fix her problem, but that's a few years down the road. So what do you do right now? Well, the same thing that we just talked about. She's got this choice. Does she do the very best thing, or does she settle for something that's not even close as a second best thing? Well, only you can decide what's important for yourself, for your life, what's worth the investment. This doesn't come cheap. I wouldn't say that you're not going to buy, you're not going to find this kind of a supplement in the big box stores. They specialize in cheap supplements. If you want something that really works, you're going to have to invest a little bit more in it. Now, I have patients who forego their ability to have cable news to be able to take this kind of a supplement. They'd rather spend the money on their health than on some of the creature comforts that we spend money on. Other people I know could afford to buy the drugstore, will buy the cheapest supplement that they can find. They're just don't want to spend the money. That doesn't make sense to me, but that might be the way you think. And that's, again, it's a free country. But I do want you to understand that there are really big reasons that we should be considering nutritional supplementation. And once you make that decision, then which one you choose, I think should be based on the ideas that I mentioned. I encourage you to go through the video again and look at those ideas. But it all comes down to, is this pharmaceutical grade or not? Is this made the same way that a drug company has to make stuff or not? And does it have the science behind it that has the comprehensive nature of the nutrients that would keep a cell alive in a petri dish? And if it wouldn't, is not good for you. So I encourage you to think of these things as you decide on your nutritional supplement choices. And I wish you well in the process. As a final note, the context for all of the things I try to share is a whole person health approach to life, health of body, mind, and spirit. I believe that we're healthiest when we work in all three spheres to be as healthy as possible, in physical, emotional, spiritual. Obviously, today we're focusing on the physical part of this triad of ways of working on wellness. And I encourage you, though, to work on all three. All three of us can, and if you do, you're going to be healthier. So I wish you well, God bless, and have a great day.